Periodically Productions presents Fairy Tales for Unwanted Children. Snowflakes to Snow by Scott Thrower. Once there was a farmer in a distant field, out of sight of road and house, past the stream and down the hill. It was there that the first snowflake fell, and it landed upon a button on her shirt and stayed, crystalline and beautiful, edges and angles and glass. "Hello," it called, and the farmer was startled by the voice and said nothing. "I'm alone here," the snowflake continued, "but then so are you, so I thought we should meet and take comfort together." The farmer smiled weakly. She tried to remember how long she'd been there in that distant field, out of sight of road and house, past the stream and down the hill, but the day had been cracked and strange. The sky had started to darken, and when she could focus, she'd thought of nothing but the farmhouse and the arms of her wife. But now a snowflake was speaking to her, and it caused all of that to slip away. "Hello," replied the farmer finally. But the snowflake melted away in the warmth of her breath, and never had the chance to answer. The second snowflake came soon after, though to the farmer it felt like ages, as the day had continued to fragment before her. This snowflake was smaller, and its edges less distinct. It was near to melting already as it settled on her scarf, and the farmer studied it carefully. Over the last 50 years she had seen many snowflakes, but before today, not one had ever said hello, so she wasn't sure how to react. Finally, she turned her head to the side towards the cart with its broken wheel, towards the distant house she could not see but could feel in the depths of her bones. She turned from the snowflake and said, "Hello," before quickly turning back to watch its response. "Oh, I didn't realize you could speak," said the second snowflake in surprise. The farmer again turned her head before replying, "I can, though I will not make for great company." "I am in need of help," said the second snowflake. "As am I," the farmer replied. She attempted to shift away from the stones in her back, careful not to tip the flake, which was already appearing quite wet around its edges. "I came looking for something," the second snowflake continued. "Some change, some adventure, something I didn't already have." The farmer thought about her wife in the distant house she could not see but could feel in the depths of her bones. So many words caught in her throat that none could spill out, and by the time her drowsy thoughts returned to the snowflake, it had melted away, leaving just a kiss of water that soaked into the scarf. The third snowflake was not alone. The sun was gone, and in the light of the large bright moon the farmer could see thousands of snowflakes descending from the sky above. But the third snowflake had come ahead. "Hello," said the farmer. She was too tired to turn her head, but the night was colder, and her breath was cooler, and the snowflake did not mind. "Hello," it replied. "I did not realize you could speak." The farmer almost laughed, but the weight of the cart prevented it. She coughed instead, and when she looked at the snowflake there was a spray of darkness around it. One branch of the tiny flake was red in the moonlight and melting away, but the third snowflake did not seem to notice. "I had to race ahead," the third snowflake said. "Were you looking for someone?" the farmer asked. The world was tipping and tossing around her, and it was difficult to focus on the tiny bit of ice before her. She thought she heard a voice in the hills, a familiar voice, calling a familiar name. But above her were a million voices, each calling out to those around it, each excited about their journey and the new world they were about to meet, each full of hope and terror, not knowing what lay before them and the dangers they faced. She wanted to call out to them, ask them to ride the wind where they could, as far as they could, to the coldest places where snowflakes could live forever, dancing and singing in the wind. "I found you, so I suppose you must be what I was looking for," replied the third snowflake. Its 5 remaining branches were clear and distinct on the black button, and the farmer lacked the strength to warm it even if she wanted to. But the day was still breaking, and when next the farmer made sense of it, the third snowflake was no longer alone. Thousands of others had spread across the farmer's body, and she had to blink them out of her eyes. The familiar voice was closer now. But the words she called were lost in the din of snowflakes, and with each passing moment, more stars disappeared and the moon grew faint. The farmer wondered why she knew the voice and why it mattered, while around her the snowflakes became snow, and the cold of them took away the weight of the cart, the stones in her back, and the crush of soil from beneath. It robbed her of the moon and stars and muffled the familiar voice that ran down the hill, raising in pitch and speed, slipping on the hillside as it came. For the first time in nearly 30 years, the farmer no longer listened for that voice. Everything was broken now. And the voice of the snow that filled the farmer's mouth and packed her ears was both a chorus of voices and just one. And she faded in and out so that the words poured over her like a warm bath. She didn't feel the rocking of the broken cart, or the hands that dug away the snow. She didn't see the moon's return, or the familiar face above her. Out of sight of road and house, past the stream and down the hill, one voice whispered, "This is it." Did you find a moral for this week's story? Let us know on Twitter at periodicallypod, or join the Fairy Tales for Unwanted discussion group on Facebook. For more fairy tales for unwanted children, join us at unwantedchildren.ca.